Puñales Montaño?
Di ako maaram.
Di ka maaram. Okay. Anyway, sige. Why do you think na kailangan natin mag-embryology bago tayo pumunta sa OB-GYN?
I think, Doc, to further understand how an embryo develops into a living organism.
Correct. Before it becomes a fetus, it has to pass through an embryo. Before you have the embryo, there must be fertilization. Okay, and from one cell fertilized by another cell, it becomes now with different growth and development. It becomes now an embryo, then a fetus. So kailangan mo, bago ka pumunta sa OB-GYN, maintindihan mo muna what is embryology. Okay? Because you just don't have that baby there. And kayo, kasi mga edad niyo, mga 21 na, di ba? 20, 21. So, you're now adults. You should know when a woman is ovulating, kailan siya magbubuntis, o kailan siya hindi magbubuntis. Okay? And you should go back to your knowledge about fertility and ovulation when we studied embryology. Now, for nurses, it will be easier for you to remember na there are 40 weeks. Okay? 40 weeks yung sanggol, the baby, before it is born. Okay? 40 weeks sa loob ng tiyan, sa loob ng uterus ng mother, before it will be let out into the outside world. Okay? And the first 2 weeks is called the pre-embryonic period, when the development of that fertilized ovum becomes a spherical multicellular structure. Pre-embryonic period. And the next period will be the embryonic period, including the 3rd to the 8 weeks of life. So first 2 months will be the embryonic period. Okay, 8 weeks. So week 3 to week number 8 is called your embryonic period. Yung first 2 weeks, pre-embryonic period. Okay. Then after the embryo is formed, the next weeks, which is after the 8th week, so ika-9th week na, it becomes the fetus. Okay? And the fetus remains in the uterus of the mother for another, how many months? For another 7 to 8 months. Okay? And it includes the remaining weeks of development prior to the birth of that baby. So hanggang sa mag 40 weeks yung baby. But there's such thing now as mature fetus against premature fetus. Mr. Dakoy-koy.
Miss.
Sorry. Miss Dakoy-koy, sorry.
Yes po, Doc.
Oo. Ano kaya ang how many months bago pa isilang yung baby? How many months would it be before the baby is born?
9
How many weeks?
months.
How many weeks dapat before the baby is born?
40 po.
40 weeks. But there's such thing as premature baby and a mature baby fetus. So what is the cut-off in the number of weeks?
A baby born before the 37th week po.
Okay, so that's correct. Before the 37th week, premature pa yung baby. Okay? And if the baby goes into 37 to 40 weeks, that's already a mature fetus. And during the fetal period, that means after 8 weeks, the fetus continues to grow and grow and grow until its organs are mature. Okay? Until maging 40 weeks na siya. So after fertilization, there are several stages of embryogenesis. The first following fertilization is the cleavage. Okay, so this is another cleavage. Alam ko yung nasa what is in your mind about cleavage. Boys, iba ito ha. Cleavage meaning the zygote dividing by mitosis to form a multicellular structure called a blastocyst. Blastocystic stage, okay? So one cell for another cell, okay? The ovum is fertilized by the sperm, okay? And after fertilization, that fertilized ovum will now divide and divide and divide by mitosis, and that's the process of cleavage. There will come a point in the embryogenesis where there will be formation of the 3 layers or the primary germ layers. And what are these primary germ layers? What do you think in your study of, when you studied college or when you studied medtech, PT, nursing? Pixon, Mark. Pixon. Are you here?
Yes, Doc.
What are the 3 main germ layers, primary germ layers that you know of?
We have the ectoderm, mesoderm.
Yes. Correct. Ectoderm, then mesoderm, then
Endoderm.
endoderm, yes. And at this stage, you should know what are the fates. Okay. What are the fates of your ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm? Because this will be asked in your exams. For example, skin. Saan galing yung skin? Arahasmin. There's arahasmin.
Yes, Doc. Sorry, Doc, my internet connection po is
Okay. Tagapalo ka ba? Kaya wala yan ako napalo.
Northern Summer po.
Anong summer? Okay.
Sorry
Sige.
po.
Okay. Kahit walang video, ano na lang yung ano. For example, saan yung ectoderm? Anong mga fates ng ectoderm kaya? What do you know of the fates of the ectoderm? Yung skin, galing saan yun? Skin? The skin comes from the ectoderm, okay? Oh, so the skin plus all the other ectodermal derivatives like hair, the nails, okay? Or the hair, the nails, the glands of the skin like the sweat glands and the your other glands on the skin are all from the ectoderm. When I say skeletal muscles, Angelica May, Lisiges, saan nanggaling yung skeletal muscles kaya?
Sa endoderm, Doc.
Another guess?
Mesoderm.
Mesoderm, yes. So all muscles, so para may ano ka na, mayroon ka ng muscles, mesoderm. Okay, so all muscles like the muscles of the different organs mo, uterus or bladder muscles would come from the mesoderm. Pero pag sinabi natin intestinal organs, the what's this? Your different Oo, yung yung lining of your gastrointestinal tract. Saan ang galing? Joanne, Rueda.
Sa endoderm po, Doc.
Endoderm, yes. So remember this. Pag skin and different ectodermal derivatives, yung hair, yung sweat glands, yung nails, all come from the ectoderm. Yung mesoderm, mga muscles yan. Okay? And then yung endoderm, galing sa mga lining epithelium ng gastrointestinal tract, usually. Okay? And different glands that are related also to the gastrointestinal tract. Okay? So this is called your gastrulation pag nag-form siya ng different layers. Okay? So after fertilization, may cleavage ka, nagmamitosis siya. Then you have gastrulation, formation of the different germ layers. And then the last one is the organogenesis, where you have now the formation and development of all organs of the body. Okay? So this is just the brief diagram, no, of the cycle of life. Okay? Yan, cleavage, di ba? The zygote becomes 2-cell. Doubling yan, ha? Doubling. 2-cell, it becomes 4, it becomes 8, 16, 32, and so forth. So doubling parate kasi mitosis, na? There should be 2 daughter cells from 1 cell. Okay? After that, nagkakaroon tayo ng gastrulation. Okay? So week 3, 4, we have gastrulation. Week 5, 6, and 7, and so forth. Now you have organogenesis up to na the birth of that baby. So we have the so-called gametogenesis. What do you call gametogenesis in the males? May amor, hamora. May amor.
Yes, Doc.
What do you call the gametogenesis in the female?
Gametogenesis.
Oogenesis.
Oogenesis, yes. It's called oogenesis. And so with gametogenesis in the males is called Paul Vincent Pedere. It is
Pardon
called,
po, Doc.
huh?
Pardon po.
What do you call the gametogenesis in males?
Spermatogenesis.
Spermatogen.
Okay, correct. Spermatogenesis. So the sex organs will mature and the sex organs will begin to produce the gametes. Okay, so we call the gametes in the female as the ovum, ova, or the eggs, and that's why you have oogenesis. While in the males, it produces the adult sperm, no, from the spermatogonia. We have the so-called spermatogenesis. Okay. In the human somatic cells, okay, it contains 23 pairs of chromosomes for a total of 46. But only 22 of these are the autosomes. Autosomes, that means the chromosomes of the organs of the body, except the sex chromosomes. And it contains the genetic information for most human characteristics. And the pair of similar autosomes are called homologous chromosomes. A cell is said to be diploid if it contains 23 pairs of chromosomes. It is called a diploid. Diploid number of chromosomes, or 2n or 46. Humans are diploid organisms, and all cells of the human contain 2 sets of chromosomes, diploid, and a cell produced by the ovaries and testes that are called haploid. Okay, so there's only 1 set of chromosomes that are haploid, and these are the sex chromosomes. So for an individual, there's a pair of sex chromosomes, and it determines whether an individual is female or male. Okay? Kung ang sex chromosome niya is double X or XX, it is a female. Pag mayroon siyang Y, XY, it is a male. Okay? And actually, there is, mapakianak ka mo, you will ask, Doctora, what is the chance of having a male or a female in each of the fertilization? What do you think? What is the chance of having a male or a female? Kung they will get up from the right side of the bed, it's female. Pag left side of the bed, male. Correct ba yan?
No, Doc.
Oh, hindi. Yeah, because it depends on, kasi labeled yung sperm, okay? It could be Y carrying or it could be X carrying. So, kung ang naka-fertilize sa ovum is X carrying, it carries the X chromosome, then the baby becomes a female. Pero kung that sperm is carrying a Y chromosome, then it will be a male baby. Huh? You have to understand that in the formation of the sperm, for each, in the event na you will have spermatogenesis, it will produce 4 sperms, adult sperm. From one cell, magkakaroon ng 4 sperm cells after meiosis. 2 will carry an X and 2 will carry a Y. So there are really a 50-50 chance of having a male or female offspring. Okay? And after fertilization, the offspring will carry the characteristic from the mother and 50% from the father. 50-50 yan. 50 from the mother and 50 from the father. Okay? So gametogenesis would start with meiosis. It produces secondary oocytes in the female and it produces sperm in the male. This is a summary of how gametogenesis is. There are 4 phases. Number 1 is the origin and migration to the gonads. Then you have germ cell multiplication. In this aspect, the germ cell will multiply in the testes in the males, while it is in the ovaries in the females. Number 3 is meiosis. There will be crossing over of the characteristics and final maturation of the sperm and of the ovum prior to fertilization. So this is just the origin and migration to the gonads, okay? From the yolk sac to the gonads in both the males and the females. So August Weismann has conceived this cycle. From the adult will have gametogenesis, producing egg in the females and sperm in the males. So magkakamay-ada in fertilization. Then, as I've said, you will have other processes like cleavage, followed by gastrulation, followed by organogenesis. And of course, the fetus will now grow until the birth of that fetus. And of course, the fetus becomes juvenile, meaning a child, and it becomes an adult. And again, the adult will go into gametogenesis and the cycle goes on. And until that adult reaches the age of seniority, mga 70s or 80s, and it will go into senescence and death. This is really the cycle of life, okay? Do you understand? So you will be this is now what we call, which comes first, the egg or the chicken? Kumbaga chicken. Who's first, the egg or the chicken?
Egg.
Nay, before mag-gametogenesis, gametogenesis muna, egg, sperm, fertilization, and then it goes through the different processes. Okay? So, dito siya misnomer nga ano, which comes first, egg or the chicken? So, egg muna, ha? Okay. Okay, now this is a graph that you will have to memorize, okay? Because this will be asked in your revalida. When you go to the 4th year, bago ka maging, before you graduate rather, you'll be asked in the so-called revalida. Always, this will come in whichever group you are. How many eggs will a female have at 5 months while she is still in the mother's womb? Okay, so a baby girl inside the mother's womb will have about 7 million. Look at the y-axis, 7 million of eggs. Okay, and then once that baby girl is born, she will only have 2 million eggs. Okay? And then by the age of puberty, 400,000 na lang, less than 1 million na, mga 400,000 na lang. Okay? Age of puberty. Until the time na, a little bit less, at the time na that girl becomes 20 years of age. Anong age ninyo yan na? Ay pag isumat kan Dr. Kapungkol, ano yung age yan na? 20, 21?
25.
May 25 na, okay. But most of you will be 21. 21, 22, ganun. Anyway, for the girls in this class, you only have about 300 to 400,000 eggs. And okay, I'll ask somebody also. Verano, Joyce Virgil, where are you?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. Miss Verano, what becomes of the eggs? For example, you have 5 dozen eggs. You put it in one basket. All of them in one basket. And let's say 2 weeks or 1 month go by. What happens to those eggs? Yung eggs bang kinakain natin?
Like,
Ano mayroon sa mga eggs?
mabubugok or
Oh
what?
yes, some of them mabubugok. Okay? Oh, nakatawa siya oh. Because you will compare this with your eggs in the ovaries. You only have 400,000 now, 300,000. In a little more time, after 10 years, you will become 34 years of age. Bugok na yung ibang eggs. Okay, that's why you will wonder why there are a lot of mga, have you seen about children or adults na nga with Down syndrome, trisomy X? Oh, di ba? So these are products of bugok eggs in the females. Usually, huh? So, ayaw ako isumatin yung parents. The best time for one to get married and get pregnant is really at your age. Huh? Kasi, nakatawa si Mr. Capon, no? Really, because when you age 34 to 35 na, buti ay nalat imo eggs. You might not have the best eggs in town. I will tell you something. It's a real story. Okay. An akon anak, now dermatologist in Tacloban City, got married at age 28, but she could not get pregnant until the age of 34 to 35. And we went to another country for the so-called in vitro fertilization. Wala na kasing chance. So when the doctor there, the sikat na doctor in Singapore, when he learned that my daughter was 34 to 35 years of age, then he didn't waste time. He said, then we'll go into in vitro fertilization. There was no more chance of having to wait for some more years for that baby to come. Okay, so nag-in vitro fertilization na. This is why in my as an OB-gynecologist, in our clinic, we suggest that for those who are 30 plus na talaga to get married and have the baby. When she gets to 34, 35, nako, delikado na yan. So kailangan na talaga mag-pregnant na. Kasi mamaya wala na siyang egg. Because the egg, these eggs are really, you have a finite number of eggs. When the baby girl is born, finite number of eggs na siya. And it will dwindle as the time goes by. Ha? Magiging bugok na yung iba. They are not good eggs anymore when you reach 35. So don't tell me na hindi kayo ginwarn, ha? Girls, pero don't tell me to your parents, ha? May nakaisgan, ha? Anyway, this just some thoughts for you to ponder on. And what really is important is this graph, ha? Memorize this graph. Kasi 5 months, 7 million. At birth, 400,000. Pag 10, ano lang? Rather, 2 million at birth. 400,000 na lang at 10 to puberty. And a little less than 400,000 when you reach the age of 20. Ha? And by the age of 35 to 40, buti ay na lang chance of having to get pregnant. Okay? So meiosis is the basis of sexual reproduction. Okay? You can only have the gametes with the meiosis. Okay? Sexual reproduction depends on meiosis and fertilization. So dapat talaga may fertilization. And also from our study of embryology, lahat kayo, you are now medical students, you should know when a woman is really fertile or ovulating and when she is not. And we can advise our patients, those who are going into fertility clinic, na kailan talaga sila magko-contact. For example, yung babae, 32 years old na. Wala talaga silang time, no more time. A little time na lang ang kailangan. So we have to advise when is the proper time to have the sexual contact. Kaya para good hira magkamay ada baby. Kahapon, meron akong pasyente, no? Storytelling na lang tayo nito. Ito sila from another town. So pumunta sila sa akin last month and kasi 32 na yung female, yung lalaki, siguro 38 ganun. And I gave them a chance to have that pregnancy. So binigyan ko sila ng during the first demonstration, binigyan ko sila ng fertility pill. So that pill will allow that egg to mature para pag 14th day of the cycle, very mature na and it is ready for fertilization. That's when you have the ovulation. So sabi ko, okay, take these pills for the next 5 days and have the contact, the sexual contact on day 12, 13, 14 para makatch talaga. Day 14 talaga yung ovulation. And then nabaton niya, nakatawa ako because, ay doktora, ang pag-contact ko namon inin, amo lang siya nga adlaw nga day 13, 14, 15, 16, upat daw la kaadlaw no sa kabulan. Nakatawa ako because sabi ko, you can have the contact whenever you want, but especially on those days because that's the time that the egg will come out. When the egg comes out, it has to be fertilized. So we will predict that this egg will come out during ovulation on the 14th day of the cycle, on the kung ang babae may daya cycle na 28 days. Okay? So it should have a timing. Ha? Timing talaga yan. So hindi kung may the contact during the first 2 days of menstruation, the first 7 days, then dili siya magkaka-baby. Other at kung ovulation lang. And you will ask me, Doktora, bakit yung ibang na-rape once lang nagbuntis? Oh, well, or maybe you will say, Doktora, kaya nagburag at girlfriend, makausaman lang kami. Ada ka na timingan. Di ba? So, it's really in the timing of the sexual contact that the woman will become pregnant. So what is meiosis? It is a type of cell division that starts with a diploid parent cell and produces haploid daughter cells. A sperm for the males and the eggs or the ovum for the females. Again, this is the life cycle producing the gametes. How a multicellular multicellular organism like the human being will produce haploid or the gametes, okay? And this is due to your meiosis. Okay, now this one will show you. Now after a cycle, one cycle, again, look at the rightmost, you will produce 4 gametes, okay? 4 ovum and 4 spermatozoa, rather than. Yeah, it is the spermatozoa, 4 spermatozoa from the chromosomes, from the mother cell, okay? Parent cell, rather. So haploid gametes are produced in the diploid organisms with meiosis I and meiosis II. Okay, you have to review your studies on meiosis I and meiosis II. It is called doubling. Okay. And then you review the characteristics of prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Which one would have the lining of all the chromosomes at the center?
Metaphase.
Metaphase. Ang pagbulag, when there will be separation.
Anaphase.
Yes,
Anaphase.
correct. The anaphase. Okay. So after that, you will now have the haploid cells formation during the telophase. Okay. So this is meiosis II. So during another round of cell division, meiosis II, the sister chromatids finally separate, forming 4 haploid daughter cells containing 2 single chromosomes. Okay, question. Di ba at the end of meiosis, you have haploid or N number, 1N or N, whereas the diploid 2N, di ba? Why do you think is this? So it just shows that really there is a God, you know. What happens, Ralph T? Mr. Ralph T, what happens when there is fertilization? Considering your number of whether it has an N or a 2N in number, the chromosome number.
Hello.
Yeah, what happens during fertilization when sperm fertilizes an ovum? What happens? Kasi para silang 1N lang. So 1N plus 1N magiging 2N. Okay? So it becomes now diploid. Okay, di ba? Ang haploid, which is an ovum fertilized by another haploid, the sperm, it is fertilized. It will now restore the 2n number of chromosomes. Okay. What happens kung 2n, another 2n, maging 4n daw adto. So it might be a monster. So the human being will only have 2n in number, huh? Diploid. It will just restore the diploid number of chromosomes. Okay. Now, let me see. During the meiosis, especially the crossing over, see, there's a crossing over of meiosis. During crossing over, there will be a crossing over of the characteristics. Okay. And it will give rise to, especially after fertilization. After fertilization, you'll have characteristics from the males, for the father, and characteristics from the mother. So what is the clinical significance of this? What do you think? Suggang. Suggang rather. Suggang. Jamil. Jamay will. Where are you? Vice President? What do you think would be the significance of having, after fertilization, meron kang characteristics from the female and meron characteristics from the male. Pero may dito ha, pidaw ha, may na findings nga, ang intelligence daw. O kayo, saan kayo nagmana? Yung intelligence daw from the mother daw ha. There are several studies on this, unless you find some more studies. It is said that you have 50% from your mother and 50% from your father. Ha? So ayaw lang ito, kumbaga, dili ka duro ka guwapo o dili ka duro ka mahusay. You just find somebody, a partner, who will improve the race. Okay? Okay ba? Katulad ba ni Pacquiao? Dili pagtamay ang Pacquiao. Dili pagtamay ha? O di ba mahusay ti asawa? So, ano yung mga offspring? Mahusay, guwapo. Okay? That's what I compare that to your after fertilization aspect of your offspring. Okay? Now, there are anomalies that will be produced in the offspring. This is because of non-disjunction. There is missegregation of chromosomes. You can have monosomy or trisomy, okay? Or some will have more Y, okay? Or may the extra nga X or may extra nga Y, okay? Because of the so-called non-disjunction. Look at that. Look at this diagram or drawing, no? So the normal is the arrow up, no? You have a chromosome that divides well. Okay, you will produce 4 equally distributed haploid cells. Okay, but look at the arrow down. Okay, hindi equal yung pagka-divide. Okay, there's so-called non-disjunction, and one of the daughter cell or 2 of the daughter cells will contain no chromosome. Wala siyang, no chromosome. So, pag na-fertilize yan, wala, hindi makukompleto. Okay? So, you can only have 1 X or 1 Y and it is lethal. It will not thrive. Okay? Diba, the one that has no chromosome, na ovum, for example, it is fertilized by an X-carrying sperm, then it will just produce a Y. Kung X carrying, it will just produce an X, XO or YO, and it will not thrive. Maging abortion yan. Okay? So, dapat equal ang distribution of the chromosomes in the gametes. Okay? So I think that's the end of this day for our study on gametogenesis and oogenesis. Next time we'll talk about, you study that, huh? What is Turner syndrome, Kleinfelters? Okay, and we'll go in depth into the oogenesis and, okay, padayon ta na lang ni kay amin ita class like. So, first, you have to know na mayroong non-disjunction, which is the primary cause of the anomalies. Anomalies, okay? Anomalies. So you can have a trisomy or monosomy. Usa lang nga X or damo nga X or damo nga Y, okay? It's a trisomy. What is the so-called Turner syndrome? Since it has an X, what is the genetic makeup of this? Anong
Female.
gender? It is a female, yes. And is it compatible with life? Okay. Turner syndrome is XO and is compatible with life. What is not compatible with life is the YO. It really would end in an abortion. Okay. This one is an XO and it is a female. Turner syndrome. We had nadudoktor yan, ha? We had already one graduate who had Turner syndrome, and she's now having a residency training in pediatrics. Huh? So, pwede siya maging doktor. Okay? Hindi na siya pwede magkaanak. Okay? Because the Turner syndrome or 45XO has ovarian dysgenesis. So, wala siyang ovarian tissue usually, no? And it will not produce eggs. So talagang
underdeveloped ovaries.
Yes, underdeveloped. It is hyalinized ovaries and it will not produce eggs. Okay. So what are the defects here? You have ocular defects, webbing of the neck. Those in the girls are short yung height nila. Yeah, yung height niya talaga maliit. Okay, and may osteoporosis, I think because they lack estrogen, and ovarian dysgenesis. Pero meron tayong graduate, ha? Naging doctor na siya, and she's now having pediatric residency training. This one is your Kleinfelter syndrome. So Kleinfelter syndrome is 47XXY. It has a Y, so ano to?
Male.
It is a male. Okay, so that person is a male. Noel Santos, ano yung mga characteristics of a Kleinfelter syndrome?
There is a gynecomastia. And there is also a lack of body hair, especially in the pubic area, and the hips are broad. The hips is broad, and in the genital area there is an immaturity or small testes with hyalinized tubule. So more on though it's a male, but the female characteristics are also manifested because of the double X chromosomes.
Okay. And since there is testicular atrophy, that there's no way by which this individual or this male can sire, we will have an offspring. Okay, I will tell you another story. When I was still younger, no, in my very active obstetrician gynecology practice, I had a patient. Siguro I got the patient mga last 2 months na lang niya. So mga 8 months na to 9 months. So, nanganak siya. May Bethany Hospital pa hadto didi Harian. So nanganak siya, okay. Then after mga 1 month, I was visited by some mga investigador. Investigar ako. Doktora, how come that this wife of an American male, how come nga nanganak ko niya? Well, I really don't know. Siguro na-fertilize siya. Nagkaama ng baby. And she delivered the baby. Kasi there was a question. Yung ano niya, yung asawa niya was American Navy. And in the records of that American Navy male, ano siya, meron siyang Kleinfelter Syndrome. Okay? So ngayon, ano ang imotigo? Noel Nadera. Noel Nadera, are you there?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. Oh, gin-investigan ako. I was being asked. I was investigated. Why is it that the wife of the American Navy nanganak? When in fact, yung asawa niya may Kleinfelter Syndrome. Meron siyang testicular atrophy. Make your wild guess.
The Navy is not the father.
Correct.
Infidelity.
Hindi talaga siya yung father.
Yes,
Kasi there's no way by which he
Nakasalis.
will be the father. Oh, okay.
Nakasulod.
May nakasunod. Dili nakasunod.
Yes,
Gin
yes,
pasunod. Gin pasunod. Why?
Nakasalisi.
Dili salisi.
driver.
It's not salisi.
Gimpasulod.
O gin pasunod. Because meron pala yan, $500 na makukuha kada usa nga child. Ha? So,
Wow.
may dahi allowance yung children of. So yung wife, gipaburutan na lang iba so that they will have the $500. Grabe ano? Where's the morality in that? Anyway,
Business.
that was the story.
So it was a mutual agreement, Doc.
I couldn't remember na itsura talagang baby, but it should be na busag adto or what, but I couldn't remember really. Anyway, among findings, the American Navy male was not the father of that baby, ha? Kasi may Kleinfelter syndrome yung lalaki, and it is in the record of the Navy, ha? So yan yung lesson. That's a lesson now, okay? Alam nyo yan, ha? Dapat alam nyo yan kung maging doktor na kayo, okay? Oogenesis is the gametogenesis in the female. I will learn more of this when we get to the second lecture hour next week. Now this one is the last slide. Again, this is the last slide I have today, but you have to study that very carefully because this is the one that you will look into when you go to histology, huh? The transection or the cross section of the ovary in the females. So you will have medulla, which is at the center, and at the periphery, just below the capsule is the cortex of the ovary. And it is in the cortex that you will have the different developmental stages of your oocyte and follicle, okay? So that on day 1, maliit pa lang yung follicle na yan, and the egg, it will develop further on, continued development of the follicle. You have several layers of the follicular cells, and the oocyte will mature until on the 14th day. On the 14th day, that follicle will mature, and the egg, notice that the egg will come out or be ovulated. Huh? 14th day yan. So that's the time that the female is ovulating. So there's a mature follicle and the egg is right there. It will be caught by your fimbria of the fallopian tube. Pag meron siyang partner and there's something that will happen that day, and the champion sperm will be able to fertilize the egg. So dyan na mag-start yung cleavage and your gastrulation. Next is your fetal period, okay? So the cycle will go on, okay? Pag na-fertilize na yung ovum, it will be brought back to the, it will rather be brought to the uterus for the implantation. Huh? So, intindiha ini anay nga diagram. Okay? So, in one slide, you will see the different developmental stages of your oocyte, okay? Or the follicle. So the follicle will have different number of layers of the follicular cells. Titikadako. The cell becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until mag-day 14. Pag day 14 niya, the follicle will mature, and it's a time that that egg will come out from the follicle, and it will be termed as ovulation. Huh? So usually it is on day 14. So alam natin na the baby will be produced or will be made, or the ovum will be fertilized on the 14th day of the 28-day cycle. And it will not be fertilized on any other day. Hindi sa 27th day, hindi sa 24th day, hindi sa day 4 or day 5, hindi. Nandun lang siya sa middle, okay, of the cycle, okay? So that's my last slide for today, and I hope you got something from my lecture. Did you learn anything today?
Yes,
Yes
Doc.
po,
Doc.
Doc.
Salamat naman.
Okay.
Oh, so
Yes
alam nyo
po,
na,
Doc.
yung my boyfriend, my girlfriend, kung kailan hindi magbubuntis, kung kailan magbubuntis, dapat alam nyo na. Okay? You're all adults, I know. So, pero ayaw ko sumatkan imo nanay nganing tatay. Sige, so that's it for today, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Doc.